So yeah, stop me if I get too technical, because like Sylvia, my background is in physics as well. I like to think I'm funny. But I'm here tonight on a very serious matter, and that's to talk about how the City of Toronto can help you guys with implementing projects. So, right now, Transform TO is our overarching strategy for dealing with climate change. And recently, this has now been accelerated where City Council voted in October to move this up to a climate emergency. And this means we're going to be trying to do more actions to accelerate the pace of emission reductions. So we're targeting before 2040. 2050, though, is the deadline if 2040 is not possible. But we really want this to be possible. And so why this is so important to the building sector is because the building sector makes up such a big portion of emissions in Toronto. 52% of our emissions in Toronto are from buildings. Space heating, domestic hot water, any of that energy use in your home. And I think this is a really interesting slide as well, because when we look at the breakdown of the building stock, we're looking at most of these emissions, half of them are from individual people's homes. So this is something that everybody can touch in their everyday life, and it's really important that we're all involved. But I am also hoping that there's a good chunk of you in this room today that are going to help me touch these other sectors. And in the other graph, you can see as well that most of these emissions come from natural gas, and our electricity system in Ontario is quite clean in general. So one of the big goals out of Transform TO is to get off natural gas. And that should be central in everyone's thinking. So the good news in this is that we do have a pathway to get to net zero. There is potential to make enough change to hit this gap. Now my slides are a little out of date because before this climate emergency, we were shooting for 80% reductions. And now we've got to close this little remaining gap down here, but it just means improving these different parts of our plan. Building energy efficiency is a huge part of this. We're looking at also community planning and electric vehicles and, getting people to commute less, use more active forms of transit. There's lots of options that I'm not really going to go into. But the long-term goals, especially that I think everyone in this room is interested in, are these ones around making new buildings near net zero emissions by 2030 and making all existing buildings retrofitted by 2050. These are very lofty goals, I realize, and they will be very hard to attain. So we all have to work very hard together on these. So I also want to point out now my colleague Stuart in the front row with me. So you might want to search for him afterwards as well. He runs the residential programs in our group. And we are both part of this Better Buildings Partnership. So this has been around since 1996 with a big focus on energy efficiency and reducing costs. But we're really transitioning and enhancing now to focus on greenhouse gas reductions. So this is where we want your help. We want to ask everyone in this room to help us, let us help you to enable your projects. So I want to know what you need. I want to know when something isn't going far enough. I want to know when we can come and, give some reassurance to a client who isn't sure which way to go, right? And so our programs to do this is probably, one of the more complex slides. But we're sort of divided up right now into existing buildings and new construction. And Then also into how these are financed, recoverable debt versus the local improvement charge. So these mechanisms, the recoverable debt is a pass-through of the city's borrowing, so pass-through of our rates. On the local improvement charge side, this is where it would be financed through your property tax bill. So this kind of financing would stay with the building instead of with the person who's borrowing. So I'm going to start with going through our residential programs quickly, and Stuart can jump up and correct me anytime I'm wrong. I think I'm going to do okay. We all work pretty closely in our group, and one of our recent launches was the betterhomesto.ca website. So this website aims to provide a resource to homeowners and any resident to make their home more comfortable, more energy efficient, more climate friendly. And so if you go on this website, there is direction around different measures that you can take to actually start implementing these things in your homes. This might also be helpful to your clients as well to understand some of the processes which you're pitching. Out of this as well, on the residential side, our financing program is one of those local improvement charge mechanisms. So the Home Energy Loan Program, HELP, we're aiming to provide loans to all of those homeowners out there who want to make improvements. Now this could be really anything that is making an energy efficiency improvement. So if you want to be going to a high performance building, this could help you start those renovations. You want to upgrade equipment in your building to, again, high-performing equipment, you can do it. So we will offer loans currently up to $75,000, although we're looking to increase this right now in our May report. And we can provide those at these fixed interest rates over that whole term. So that confidence that that is not going to change is pretty reassuring for a lot of people. They're fairly low. No penalty for early repayment if you can get lower rates elsewhere. And again, they're attached to the property. So if you decide to move on, sell, they stay with the home. So definitely reach out, track Stuart down if you're interested in these programs, because I do think these can be used to enable some of the retrofits that we talk about so frequently here. And these are some of the example technologies that this could be put towards. I think, again, you could think about windows or building envelopes as well. You could think about the equipment in your home. You could think about heat recovery equipment. You could think about electric vehicle charging or storage and renewables. And if you can think of something that's not on this list that you want to be included, we are flexible. We want to help you. So the sister program to the HELP program is the Highrise Program. So this program's basically a help program for those large multi-residential buildings. So if you're over 3 floors, you're looking at basically that same thing that single-family homeowners can get, but you're looking up to $2 million. And those are also targeted towards making any greenhouse gas reduction improvements in those buildings. As a side thing, which I didn't put a slide in, they also will come out and do a walkthrough assessment of your building, look at things like energy, they'll look at things also like waste, they will look at community aspects as well. So they're very well tied into making these equitable projects as well. So our other programs are focused really on all other buildings in Toronto. There's a couple of specialty ones for residential buildings, but the rest fall into all buildings. So this is the part that I work on the most, the programs that are targeted towards a little bit bigger buildings usually. So we have a navigation and support services program, which I really think fits this room well as well. So this program, we will go out, we'll do a walkthrough for a building owner that asks us to identify potential opportunities on that pathway to net zero. But I think where it comes in for you guys is that if you have somebody who's asking about projects and wants some reassurance, we're there to act as a trusted advisor. You know, I think that most people see the city as fairly impartial in these matters. You know, I'm not going to the permitting department either. We are an advocate for you in our group, right? We can try to help navigate some of those processes as well. But, you know, through this program, we'll identify some of that financing that's available from other sources, and we can help overcome hurdles. So please reach out to me for this as well. Because I think this is really somewhere where we can partner with very strongly. And the other big program I work on is this Energy Retrofit Loan program. So again, we're targeting energy efficiency upgrades that result in greenhouse gas reductions. And this program is very flexible in a lot of ways and inflexible in a couple as well. But we can loan you large amounts of money, tens of millions of dollars. We don't really want to do any of the smaller projects. It's probably not worth your time to come to us for that $100,000 project even. But you can. And this program, I think, is really, really, really interesting as well because no one in the financial sector has anything like this otherwise. What's really interesting is that if you have a business with good financials, this program will probably require no security on that loan because this program is secured through you actually saving money on your energy costs. So we don't have to have you put down any other collateral. It won't affect your other borrowing for your business. And I think business owners are really interested in that part. We advance the funds at the start, so no bridge financing is required for projects. And repayment of principal and interest does not start for 12 months from that fund disbursement. This will let you finish that project and start realizing savings. But, you know, fixed low rates again, even lower than the others for up to 20-year terms, which is unheard of everywhere else. And you know, we want to be flexible with how we can deliver it. The big thing that is less flexible right now, but hopefully will become more flexible in the future, is that the debt service has to be covered by energy savings. So you have to save enough energy to cover your loan payments. This works for a lot of projects, and when you go to really high performance, it can work as well. When you're only going to partly high performance, it doesn't always. Doesn't always work for electrification projects either. But if you have one, I want to help make it work. And we want to fit that into future programs as well. So one of the other things our department will do for anyone, this is big buildings, small buildings, single residential, or multi-residential, commercial, institutional, industrial, anything, is consultation around renewable energy. So if you want to put in a solar PV system on your roof, we will do a free assessment for you of what size of system, what the costs are, and what you need to do that. We'll also do that, a similar assistance on energy storage, if you're thinking about putting in a system, or with geothermal and geo-exchange systems, the ground source heat pumps. As an aside for that, there are some initiatives in our economic development division, which I won't really be talking about, but they want to encourage green innovation. So if you have something that you think is really green and you need some city resources for, like you need to access, you want to put your geothermal system under the street, you're responsible for costs, but our mandate now is to let you do that. So talk to me about that as well. New construction. So I think a lot of you in the room also work on new construction projects, and you're probably familiar with our program, the Toronto Green Standard. Now this is also outside of my department, but you know, we can also get you in touch with the right people, and a few of them are even here tonight that are pretty knowledgeable about it. But basically, Toronto Green Standard is our sustainable design requirement for new construction. So it's Tier 1 is currently required, and it's a step code, so increasing tiers will be introduced over the next few years with the aim of ending up at a place where we're near net zero, and that will be the requirement. And the benefit out of this is that if you hit one of these higher level voluntary standards right now, you can get your development charges refunded. Can be a good benefit. So the other things which are sort of interesting to this group as well, or I hope that are interesting, are what we are doing around our other programs and policy. So one of the big new ones that fell out of this climate emergency as well is this Green Will initiative. And the mayor decided that he wanted to engage the city's biggest property owners, property managers, to help them catalyze their pathway to net zero. So this program we've been developing over the last couple of months and plan to roll out this month will be giving recognition to good projects, fostering collaboration between participants, and helping city staff will be assisting as well in helping these big portfolio owners in developing a plan to get them to net zero. And right now we have 11 participants in this first cohort, 300 million square feet of gross floor area, and we're looking at a second cohort. So if you think you can fit into that, you should also let us know. And we're developing what this is actually going to look like still. I think it's pretty fluid, but I think it's going to be interesting. And it is, there's a lot of drive behind this. So the other last part of my talk is around what's going to happen with new building or existing buildings and policy around that. Because our group is now currently developing policy on what's going to need to happen. So we are looking to improve emissions reductions across the building sector. And right now, this report that we're working on will go to council early next year to be approved for implementation. So out of that, we're looking to create these performance targets for different building topologies, define a package of policies and economic instruments to enable support, so financing, and provide guidance as to what to do. Because, I'd say most of us don't always know what to do to actually impact that change across our wide variety of buildings in the city. And a few of those things, which again I think are interesting, is, if you look at some of the best practices in the industry, I think New York City is always a good example. And if you want to look at what they're doing, I think that you're going to see a lot of that in Toronto very soon as well. So we're looking at right now energy and emissions rating and labeling for buildings. None of this is happening yet, but we're planning that this is likely going to be implemented. Again, auditing requirements and ongoing recommissioning requirements for buildings, and capital plans as well that incorporate that pathway to net zero. And some of this might happen when a building is sold. Some of this might happen when you put in for a permit for making renovations, where you have to do an audit. You have to make improvements if you're below a certain threshold. We're not sure, but this is coming. And the industry really needs to support these changes. And I think if you're there as the front runner, you will have a big benefit. And same as the economic incentives, we're looking at grant programs, refunds, fee exemptions, property tax exemptions, special tax treatment. So we want to support these projects. Don't know what this is all going to look like yet, but we will see. So thank you very much. I would love to come out and present to your businesses as well. If you want me to bring this presentation to your your company, if you think it would be helpful, I'm happy to come and talk about these programs. And, come and talk to me after the show. Happy to talk about anything. I just want to leave you with some questions as well that you might want to think about for talking to us. We do want to hear about your feedback for how we can make this better and how we can make this work for major building retrofits, for those really high performance retrofits. Thank you.